this afternoon, and it's been how long since we hung out in person?
I don't know.
Far too long. It's got to have been over a year by now.
I think it must be. It's a bit crazy. Like, that was the thing yesterday at conference, was seeing all these people going, oh my gosh, I have not seen you in person. So some of them were 2 years since we've actually seen some of these people in person, and some of them online, not even for 18 months. So it was amazing to see all these people and reconnect, and just to listen to the stories that they're sharing over the last, their changes and what they've done and how they've pivoted in the last couple of years.
The pivot has been, I know everyone's sick of the word, but it's such a great word because it's what we've all done in so many. And as a dance teacher, I know, especially in a ballroom, you pivot on your heel and round you go, and off you go in another direction, and you just take a big deep breath and go. And I feel like that's what we're all doing, and we've done it over and over in the last couple of months. And
there's actually, someone asked a question yesterday, which I really found it fascinating. So there's a group of panelists on the stage, and someone said, how do you know when it's time to quit? And it was a really interesting, because the women on the stage went, I don't understand the question. What do you mean you want to quit? It's like, I don't get it. And it made me think, and this is what was really interesting talking about clarity today, it made me think, what is it? And that's where pivot comes in. It's not about quitting. It's about recognizing where you need to move towards or move to, rather than where you are at the moment. So you don't necessarily have to, and I said yesterday, it's not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's actually trying to work out how to throw the baby out with the bathwater without throwing out the baby. Like, how to get rid of, how to actually work out what you're doing without completely, unless you want to change. Like, if you've been doing face-to-face workshops forever and you go, that's how my program runs, maybe it's time to say, maybe it's no longer the way you do it. Maybe it's time to do something else. And if you're a restaurant, like my friend of mine has a restaurant in Redcliffe, during COVID, they just developed a delivery system. They just went, they've never done delivery. They don't work. They've got a very kind of really strict process. They've been running for 30 years. And they went, we're going to do delivery. And it's now 20% of their business, because they decided to serve their customers as a delivery only during COVID. And now 20%, which is insane, that during just a quick pivot during COVID has led to 20% of their business now going forward. It's crazy.
Wow. So that is incredible. And I was telling you ages ago about Table Under the Tree, a local company here at the very beginning of lockdown in 2020. They used to provide these amazing produce pods of local things for holiday makers here. And of course, suddenly no holiday makers. So they started doing a farmer's market delivery. So you don't choose what's in it, it just arrives. Absolutely amazing what they've evolved into, and that's now 100% of their business. So quite extraordinary. They have not just survived but absolutely thrived. So it'll be interesting to see, now that our holiday makers are coming back, if they go back to that or not, because
it really is
incredible business now.
It is. And I think it comes back to, our topic today was going to be talking about clarity, about what you do in business, and clarity in your business and life and your marketing and all aspects of that. And that really, to me, if you have understanding of what your clarity is, what your purpose, what you're trying to do in your business, where you want to go, what you want it to look like, all these things don't feel like you're giving up or losing or changing. It just becomes an evolution. It just becomes an evolving of the business, because it's still going towards the same thing. You're still trying to achieve the same outcome. You're just not fixed on how you achieve it. And so many of us get fixed on, well, I deliver face-to-face, or I deliver online, or I deliver this way. And we get so fixated on that we forget what we're trying to actually achieve, and looking at what the outcome is, rather than we focus on the what or the how.
Yes, you're so right. And you know what, though? I realize I've actually become way more rigid in that, but I'm happy with that. I've actually got more clarity around my rigidity. So before COVID, for example, I was very happy to, if somebody said, actually, I can't come to you, can you please come to me? And so therefore it would take me half an hour to an hour driving time. Then we'd have our session. Then I'd have all that driving time back. So I've literally invested half a day, and never charged any extra for travel time or whatever. And it didn't suit me at all, but I kept doing it, and particularly with a couple of clients that just really felt that they really needed that. And that was incredibly challenging for me, and I just went with it. And then of course COVID hit, we took it online, and they've loved being online. So what I realized, and now I've started to be asked again, can we do it in person? And I'm like, just no, this is how I do it. Even if you live down the road, this is how I'm operating my business. And I'm rigid on that. I'm not bending. And if it doesn't suit you, that's okay. You could find someone that's happy to work with you in person. And that
But I love that.
Around that.
And I love that for you, because by doing that, though, you've actually created a whole range of new products and programs that you now run around that online model. So your masterclasses are so much more accessible to people, because we don't have to worry about traveling and getting there and staying overnight and finding a location and finding a venue. Everybody who's, no matter where you are located in Australia or in fact the world, can attend your masterclasses, because you now have that flexibility about delivering them online. And so many of my clients say that to me. I've got my 3-day mastermind, which I always want to do face-to-face. And so many clients are saying, will you do this online? And I'm actually saying no, for the same reasons, because for me, I know the best version of the delivery of that program is face-to-face. And that's why we charge a little bit more. That's why you stay at my house. That's why we actually, feed and water you for the weekend, because that immersion is really important. But for masterclasses, you can do short masterclasses online, because you're in and out. You're doing that kind of bite-size or capsule knowledge that is so much better delivered online in your own home, in your own space, and you can execute immediately.
Absolutely, I agree. So I think that clarity piece, and just saying, this is what's working for me. I've tried it. It's not like I've been rigid from the beginning. I've absolutely tried it. I've tested it. I've seen what works, and this is what works for me. And we've talked about it before, Jenni, getting to that beautiful time in your business when you can say no to a client that's trying to push you in a direction that you don't want to be pushed into. So I think whichever way it is that we're going, whether it's online, whether it's in person, whatever it is, if it doesn't feel right, then getting really clear on why doesn't it? What do we want to do with that?
But again, one of the lovely ladies yesterday was talking about their business, saying, look, I think they think they've done as much as they can do in the setting that they've developed in their structure, and they need a new structure. And so they're talking about the structure. So I need to change my structure in order to grow. But then my question to them is, well, what do you want to grow into? What's the outcome that you're trying to achieve? Because we focus on the changing of the materials, like we'll change our shirt or change our clothes or change whatever it is without, in a mindless way almost. But we don't think about, well, what are we doing it for? Why do I need to wear high heels? Why do I need to wear a pretty dress or pants or put my hair up or earrings? What's the outcome? What is the intention that we're trying to achieve? And I think that's what I love about the way that you pivoted Hello Media, is that you were really clear about what you wanted to achieve in the business and what was going to work for you. And that clarity has driven every decision you've made since then about what you want to do. But when you just make changes without asking that question, is what is the clarity about what I'm doing? What's my intention? What am I trying to achieve? Everything just becomes kind of like, you feel like you're playing and flipping and flopping between different things, because you don't actually work towards a clear plan.
Indeed, you did right. So I saw a post the other day, obviously we're still in massive recovery mode down here through the, from the floods, etc. And so there's a fair bit of angst going on in the Facebook groups and stuff like that. But it's interesting to watch those that are commenting and responding with really beneficial, really supportive, really helpful comments. And someone was talking about their business and how they're stuffed and they're this and they're that, and that, and actually their business is online, but they're saying, we've just got such issues with the internet and da 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 da. And so how can I earn money? And why isn't the government giving me more money? And blah blah blah. And the dude said, actually, you could go and stack shelves at Woolies, because there's a desperate need for, where the produce is being built up, and I see those ads all the time, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought, that's beautiful. That in itself was a magic moment of clarity. It's like, let's put it out there. There are other options. You don't have to be caught up in the mindset of complain, it's all too hard. Just look with some fresh eyes and, do something different perhaps.
And I love that what you said then, because that's the reality, isn't it? Because we all have choice. And what that lady hadn't recognized, or that person hadn't recognized, is that she has a choice, and she's choosing to stay in her business and focus on having this negative attitude or a lack perspective, or the trauma, because a lot of that will be trauma that based around this kind of wound of the flood that's happened. And so she's still feeling, or they're still feeling in that responsive mindset, rather than, okay, it's done. We can't change it. We're here. This is our position now. So how do we grow and learn and move on from that in a way that's going to help serve my family, serve my outcome? And if that is stacking shelves at Woolies, or helping out at a retirement village like you do, or doing other just odd jobs just to get you by, then that's okay, because that's actually not taking you off your path. That's keeping you on your path.
Well, actually, you're right. And that was really interesting. So, as you know, as you mentioned, I volunteered at a nursing home when they were having really big problems with getting staff in because of the floods. I actually got a little bit of backlash just recently from a couple of people, two different sources, saying our aged care system is in such a dire need of an upheaval that by you and the other volunteers going in there, it actually didn't help them because they didn't have to make changes and fix it. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. They said, yes, it would have been awful for the staff that were there not to have volunteers. Yes, it would have been awful for the old people not to have been fed, but then surely that would have spoke louder to the government. And I just sat there thinking, can you imagine if that was my mother in that home and nobody would go in to help? I thought that was just extraordinary. So, yeah, it's an interesting thing.
And that's that position of like, you know, you don't need to cause pain to make a stand, do you? It's like, we're going to like stand back and let it fail so that the government recognizes that they need to help us. Well, actually, the government is always helping us on lots of different levels. Now, I'm not going to defend what they've done because there's been missteps across the way around all the different stuff that's happened. But at the end of the day, we're responsible for our own selves and our own response to things. And we're all human, aren't we? We're all supposed to be helping each other. We're supposed to be coming together collectively on some level to try and actually build each other up. It's not actually about saying, well, I'm going to actually not worry about you, and it doesn't matter if you get hurt or you don't get served or whatever it is because I'm making a stand. That's a pretty selfish and a pretty kind of low level for me, from my perspective. And apologies if I sound very judgy, but for me, that's actually a really poor lens because you're looking at it from a self-interest perspective rather than a broad community perspective, I think, anyway, or a short-term perspective.
You just said community, and it's that magic word. So my clarity comes around community. So I have to prioritize community because I've had a lot of support from the community over the decades, and I want to give support to my community. I think at the end of the day, that's where it's at. Not for all of us, obviously, but for some of us. So yeah, again, coming back to that clarity piece, that's what's important for me. That's what fills my cup, or that's my love language, or whatever you want to.
It's your mission. That's your entirely mission. Like if you could, to be honest, I think if you could survive on charity alone, and giving charity and doing community work alone, you would do that if that's what you could do for your family. But unfortunately, you can't survive entirely on that space. So you know, and you love the work you do with Hello Media, so there's that balance. But what you do with Hello Media is bring people together, don't you? Like if I think about the PPP in your Passionate Purposeful Women group, that's all about bringing community and helping, and the incredible, you know, radiation of kind of support that group has done and the huddle has done into community at the moment has been phenomenal. And you are driving that because that's a mission and a purpose, because you're clear on that. And you're not doing it to try and, you know, to be noted or to be seen or to anything else. You're doing it truly because it's coming from your heart. You're doing it, it's your soul work, right? And I think that's what we often forget, is that sometimes they misalign with what other people's values are, and that's okay. It doesn't matter. You don't have to all be the same. That's what makes it beautiful, right? Is that you have a different purpose and I have a different purpose, and we all kind of work in the world in a different way. And by doing that and accepting that, it actually allows everyone else just to live in their space and own the space they're in and be like, this is who I am. Come and find me if you need this. And if you don't, that's okay.
Jenni, I totally agree. And I'm just thinking then, for those people listening and who think, crikey, I'm in an absolute befuddled mess. And I've heard a lot of people saying lately, like my favorite word, you know, is I'm just discombobulated, but it's such a good one for describing a lot of what's going on. And it's also with the world, you know, with what's going on with the Ukraine and everything. Like there's a lot of worry and distress on a lot of people's minds right now. So Jenni, in terms of getting clear, getting clarity, obviously you and I both agree it's like the most important thing, having a really clear roadmap of where we're headed, what it is that we're trying to achieve. What would you say for people as one piece of advice to start that process? How do you even begin when you've got a mind just full of all the things? What's one thing you can do?
Oh, such a great question, Kylie. I love that question. I wish I'd prepped for this answer. For me, I actually look at it as a continuum. I guess what comes to mind when you ask me that question is I want to draw a line on a book or somewhere, and say, on that spectrum, if these are the things that you'd never want to do again, and these are the things that you love to do every day, all the things that are filling your mind, put on that spectrum. And put all the things, so from the things, start with the stuff that you love to do and work your way back, and just find its space on that spectrum from what I never want to do again to what I want to do forever and every day if I get paid or otherwise to do. And then look at how you can actually start shedding the things to the left of that, the start things that you don't want to do, and start building your business around the things that you want to do every day that fills your cup and that love, that kind of that you love and that's going to love you back, right? I was saying, yes, I'm going to start a workshop that says how to build a business that you love, that loves you back, because that's the biggest challenge. Like, we do things, but the business doesn't necessarily love us back. So this is the first step to that, is getting clarity around what do I like to do, what don't I like to do. Write that on a piece of paper, all the things, like I mean all the things, washing, cleaning, washing the car, feeding the dog, cleaning up poop of the dogs, you know, whatever it might be, right to like doing coaching. And if you do that, and then actually look at which part of that actually lights you up. And that piece, those things on that actually make you fill your cup as you're writing them down, that's where you need to focus. And that's where you need to create a business around that stuff and find ways, systems, processes, support, team members to help you start getting to shedding and moving on from those things that you don't want to do anymore, because that's how you'll create a sustainable business that you want to go into every day, rather than just going, oh, I really want to help the world. Well, what the heck does that mean? Like, be clear on that. Does that help? I don't know. That would be my answer.
So let's go to stage 2 then. So we've got that piece of paper, we've got our line, and we've got from far left to far right and all the things. So then I feel like stage 2 would be then cut that piece of paper in half. All that thing you don't want to do, you're just going to toss that one, and then we're going to focus on that top half of the line. And we're going to go, and I feel like step 3 will be your do first matrix, or the Eisenhower matrix. And then we work out, okay, what is it to get some real clarity on where we're headed with, say we've already got a business in place, or we're trying to launch a new one or something. What needs to happen next? So rather than a do first matrix for today, a do first matrix for the next 6 months, perhaps. What do you think about that?
I love that idea. And I use that kind of model. And I know we've talked about this, but I love that idea about saying, let's just look at what are the things we need to do to create a business around the stuff we love. And that's a beautiful way, because then you're not in overwhelm, are you? That's the thing, is we're not getting into this state of, oh my God, I've got all these things to do today. You're actually just looking at the stuff that you might want to explore. There's no commitment. There's no kind of pressure. It's just giving you a framework and giving you a structure that you can then start planning around. I love that idea.
So then what about we chat with people about what does that matrix look like? So we've got a piece of, so we've got our next piece of paper. We're going to basically make a cross, right? So, or a plus, whatever you want to say. And then we're going to divide that up into 4 sections. So do you want to go through people do you want to explain for those that aren't aware of the do first or the Eisenhower matrix?
Sure. Basically, we're looking at what's important and what's urgent. So if we're looking at it from a 6-month or a bigger picture, the first quarter, so the top left piece of that is the stuff that you need to do first. So if you're setting up a business, that's the things that you might want to think about to do that's going to actually help you set the business up. So identify partners, identify space, identify products, identify a brand, identify kind of what you're trying to achieve, so the clarity piece. The next piece is the stuff that you need to schedule. So this is like the second tiered stuff. This is the stuff that will happen and fall out of that first box. So I decide I need to define my brand or create a new brand for this new product or this pivot, then I need to engage a marketing consultant like Hello Media or Kylie to actually help me do that. So that would be in the schedule box. So the first top left is around the stuff that we need as a foundation, the stuff I need to do to start. It might be a banknote, it might be a business plan, it might be, working out products. Second thing is things that you need to schedule. So that's the stuff that needs to happen after you leap, after you take that leap. What are the things you need to do next? The bottom left-hand side, so this is the third box, is the delegate box. And this is the stuff that you need to do, but you don't have to do it or you don't have the skills to do. So that might be something like, well, I actually need to develop some systems and processes or build a website. I'm going to delegate that to someone else. I need to actually create an email sequence, or I might need to actually create some, physical structures around what I need to do. I delegate that to a tradesman or a tool, somebody who specializes in that area. And the fourth box is the most amazing box, for this is the stuff that you don't do, you discard, you get rid of, you leave, you shed, you move on from. And they're all the things that you kind of are holding on to out of habit. So when you go through that list, that you've written out. There will be some stuff that have crept into that the things that you just don't need to be doing anymore. So that might be like you don't need to run face-to-face workshops anymore. Get rid of them. Or you might say, I don't want to run online anymore because it's doing my head in, so get rid of it. So actually give yourself permission to get rid of things you don't want to do anymore. And then that gives you a 3 to 6 month plan. So the first box is probably the next 0 to 3 months of stuff we need to do to start the business. Second box is the stuff we need to schedule after that, so 3 to 6 months. And the third box is stuff we want to delegate to other people to do for us at the same time. That's supporting. So imagine it's the bottom half, it's supporting all this work up top. And then the get rid of stuff is just the things that you just are wasting your time and are lots of noise in your world. So for example, if you are a business that doesn't really do very well on Twitter, stop posting on Twitter. If Twitter's not your space, or if you're actually, for example, if you're someone who's like, oh no, but everyone told me I should be on Facebook, but Pinterest is where it's at for you, get rid of Facebook. No, don't completely, but don't focus on Facebook anymore. So have a look at how you can actually shed the stuff you're doing and build it into your strategy. And that becomes a nice plan and strategy for the next kind of 3 to 6 months in your business.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. One of my favorite spots is that number 3 spot, that delegate.
Yes.
So many of us business owners, it is incredibly hard to hand over those other jobs.
Yeah.
And luckily, you and I both have teams that our teams behind the scenes, and wow, what a difference that's made to both of our businesses.
Definitely.
Delegation thing. So what do you suggest? My suggestions would be, if you don't have a team behind the scenes and you still you need to delegate, literally not any human can do every single thing.
No.
So for me, for example, my first stage would have been bookkeeper, accountant, those kind of pieces. My next part of the delegate would be actual platforms. So when I'm doing my Do First matrix, it's not even necessarily people. So it'll be like, okay, so I know I need to set up, for example, Airtable, and that's going to be my delegate person is Airtable, because once I've spent that time and invested that time putting it all into Airtable, then it's going to run much better. So I'm delegating it to not necessarily to a person.
Yeah, and I love that idea, particularly if you're using Airtable with something like Zapier or something else that actually allows you to automate your whole processes. So if you're using Google or Microsoft or Airtable or whatever it is, something like Zapier becomes your, artificial intelligence virtual assistant that can do some of those tasks that don't require thinking, that just requires action to be done. And so I think that's beautiful when you're looking at delegated. How do we work smarter? That work smarter, not harder, which I know gets a little bit twee sometimes, but it's true when it comes to systems, and true when you're a small business trying to grow and trying to find ways to find more time in your day. Delegating is definitely the place to go. And remember, there are things, and this was a big step for me. It took me 4 years to delegate my invoicing. So I kind of forget that I can go to Xero and I can set up just an invoicing option so that my team now actually do my invoicing for all my consulting clients. So my coaching stuff goes through Stripe, but my consulting clients all go through Xero. And so now when we win some business with consulting and we need to do the invoicing for that, I can send them to my team, and then my amazing Macy will actually create that invoice and send it out, and I don't have to worry about that anymore. And it may only be 5 or 10 minutes, but that 5 or 10 minutes, when you multiply it over the contract, becomes a huge weight that you kind of have to bear. And now I don't have to, because I have an amazing team who do that for me. So think about what you really need to do, like stuff you really need to do.
And on that invoicing topic, if you know that's something that's got to be sent every month, then set it up to auto repeat. So you can 100%. Even set up auto reminders, and like so much of it that you can actually automate. Now, I know that automating can be overwhelming, because even just learning how to do that can take time. But my goodness, if it takes you half an hour or 3 hours to learn how to do that, that's going to save you potentially a week in the space of a year of actually going back in and 100%. Testing that all.
And remember your time is valuable, and your knowledge. So I look at you, Kylie, and the amazing work that you do and the amount of hours a day that you put into your clients. That's incredibly valuable information and coaching that you're supporting. So because you've got this great team doing all this other automation piece, you actually help other clients you set that up for some of your clients. I know that. But if someone like me who goes, or someone else who's starting a business who goes, I don't know how to do automation, and you don't want to spend 20 hours learning the systems, you can hire somebody like our colleague Nick I, our friend who does that kind of work, who can consult you on how to automate your business, how to set your business up on repeat. So it's fully automated if you need it to be. So you can actually hire an expert, and that's where you need to be mindful of the investment that you need to spend. And this is the one thing that I think is that we often forget, is that you don't have to spend a lot of money to grow and build a business. But if you were going to spend money in one place, it would be on finding someone who's going to help you set your structure, help you set up your systems and processes. And that's where the money is best invested. So whether it's the branding identity that you do, whether it's the business structure and coaching like I do in terms of how to actually build your business, and someone like our colleague who actually can build your automation for you. And then you don't have to, that's where the money is best invested, rather than necessarily buying a fancy new something or, buying a new computer today when you don't really need it. Spend that $2,000 on someone who's going to help you run your business more effectively, because then that $2,000 will come back in spades when your system runs and your whole business runs better.
I think that's such a great thing. And I've talked about that twice yesterday with different people, that exact thing that you mentioned, which is about finding the right person. And what we were talking about yesterday, which I just think I've just got to say it again, it's when you see someone doing something that you think is great, or they've done something that you want to do, or they're doing something in the way that you think is really clever, then get with them. So it's about constantly investing in the next person that's going to help you get to the next stage that you need to be. Correct. So I think, like about Nick I, amazing dude. I've been following him for years and go to his online meetups and things. Very, very clever man. But what's clever about him also is he's constantly learning. He doesn't just sit back and go, wow, nailed that. Like I'm sure he's got a everyday thing where he's looking for that next thing and that next platform that's going to make things more simplified. And so I think always, all of us have got to remember the next thing has got to be where you invest your business is in somebody to help you get to that next stage, or make something easier, or pick off a load or something like that.
100%. So, and it goes back to your first point, though, doesn't it, Kylie, about knowing where you want to go, right? Knowing what your outcome's going to be and what you're trying to achieve allows you then to plan those extra learnings and those informations and those people that we need to bring in and the systems, because we know what path we're on, we know where we're going. And so you do that from a branding, I do that from a business structure perspective, but knowing the pathway allows us to go, okay, I know what I'm doing this for, I know what the outcome's going to look like, and that's what we're working towards.
So I feel like if we were going to sum up the importance of clarity and how we're going to get there, that would be, number one would be draw that line and put that, that importance of what you like, what you don't like, et cetera, et cetera. Then go to that do-first matrix and work out what you can delegate and what you can just forget about completely and what you need to do first, et cetera, et cetera. Then the next bit would be find someone that can help you get there. So I reckon that's a good 3-step process that's going to get you exactly where you need to head. So
I love it.
Another great chat, Jenni. I feel my brain is full and I've got 2 hours to drive, so I'm going to be able to process all of that when I come to it this afternoon, which I'm really looking forward to.
I can't wait to see you this afternoon and have a chat, and we can kind of reconnect and maybe do a little maybe we should do challenge ourselves to do a little Facebook Live this afternoon about what we've learned from the day and our conversations, just for a bit of fun. The afternoon bite size. We've done morning bite size. We might do an afternoon bite size this week.
Great idea. All right, everyone. Well, we look forward to seeing you this afternoon on a Facebook Live. For those of you listening to the replay or as the podcast, thanks for joining us. We love having you here. I'm Kylie Mowbray-Allen from Hello Media, and I'm chatting with my digital BFF,
Jenni Walke from Elephant in the Room Consulting.
Awesome, guys. Great to connect with you all. Thanks so much for being here, and see you next Friday. Same time, same place, and we'll announce our topic through the week. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.